everybody, and welcome to Moms on a Mission. So we all know Mike Lindell with My Pillow, and he has amazing slippers and pillows. He has a 2.0 pillow, mattress toppers, but they have been out of their bath towels, and so they are back in stock. They are actually 50% off if you use the code MISSION today. It's a six-part set. It's 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths. And we all have seen the commercial, on Fox where he pours the blue water on the other towel and it runs off, and you pour it on his and it absorbs it. So clearly they're very absorbent. And $39.99 is a pretty good deal for a whole set. We've gone to the stores and we've seen there are a lot more than that, sometimes just for one towel. So $39.99 for a whole set. Go to My Pillow and type in the code MISSION to get your towels today. They have lots of different colors and they're back in stock. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest today. To be honest with you, I just learned of him and his work, and it is just stellar. He had a career actually founding an advertising agency that grew to national prominence over 15 years. His conversion to Christ, though, led him into ministry as a youth and college pastor, then an associate pastor, homeless ministry director, and global event director for an international ministry, organizing events on 5 different continents. He holds 2 master's degrees in the mental health counseling field and has spent a number of years in private practice and has taught at secular and Christian colleges. He's also the author of the book, Why Are We Sitting Here Until We Die? But his most recent, I think, prominent accomplishment is serving as the CEO for Trail Life USA. Welcome to Moms on a Mission, Mark Hancock. Thank you, Mark, for joining us today.
I love the fact that I'm here speaking with your moms on mission today. We're on a mission too.
Yeah, we are on a big mission. And we're just talking, Mark and I were just talking in full disclosure before the show about how God is using seemingly people who are like, I never thought I'd be a podcaster. I'm sure he never thought he'd be CEO, of Trail Life USA. And so I just think it's kind of funny. Moses actually probably thought he wasn't going to be leading with his stuttering problem and using Aaron as his, mouthpiece. I don't think he planned on that either. So I think God does get the glory with using vessels like us, people who just say yes to God and allow his power to work through us. So thanks for being here, Mark. And just for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, I've married to my wife, Michelle, for about 34 years. We have 2 grown sons, and one is teaches at a classical Christian academy in Atlanta. And both my sons were homeschooled and classically raised and classically educated. And my younger son is a senior at Liberty University. He'll be graduating with his business degree in June. So we live here in South Carolina. I've served as the CEO of Trail Life USA for the last 10 years. And of course, had a past that led me here in kind of strange ways, and I love your introduction and talking about that idea, the Moseses and the Gideons and the Davids and those unknowns that are plucked out. And I say this to members of our organization all the time: if what you are doing can be done in your own strength, you really have to wonder if it's worth doing. And so God called me into this position. And I spent years asking him what he was thinking, and but this whole challenge caused me to hug him tighter, and I figured out that's what he was thinking. He really wanted me to hug him tighter and to realize that he's the one who's leading the organization, and I think that's what I hear the humility in what it is that you're challenged with and what it is that you're dealing with. I think that's God can use that person that says, I really can't do this. So I'm so dependent on you for my next decision, my next breath, my next hire, my next, whatever it is that we're up to, my next meeting. And so I think you can really use people like that.
And I think the beauty of him using maybe incompetent people is there is just no question of who gets the glory. I mean, there's no gift, there's no natural inclination, there's no education background for either what we're doing exactly. But when we say yes to him, and we do know that it's all him, our vessel is completely open for his power to flow through. And so it can be all him, not only in practice, but also in honor and giving him the glory. So I humbly am so grateful for his call and that he does get the glory. So how did you get into this position? You said your paths crossed with some people. How did that happen?
Yeah, just strange things. Trail Life USA is a Christ-centered, boy-focused adventure, character, and leadership organization for boys from kindergarten up through 12th grade. And so you say, well, that sounds like Boy Scouts. Well, it is a lot like Boy Scouts, but 10 years ago, it was clear that the Boy Scouts were losing their way. And they've just, every couple of years, they've shown us more and more drastic decisions that they're making, that they truly are not the org. They're not your grandfather's Boy Scouts, that's for sure. And so my sons were in Boy Scouts, and as a homeschooling dad, I attended every meeting, but I didn't feel drawn into the leadership of that organization. But when they announced the changes that they're going to do, there was about 300 volunteers across the country who said, somebody's got to do something about this. This storied organization that began with Christian values over 100 years ago and gave us presidents and senators and astronauts and generals and civic leaders and just knew how to turn boys into men, was losing its way. And somebody had to pick up the slack. And so 300 volunteers across the country got involved. Somehow I was in that number, and I ended up with 50 of us gathered in Louisville, Kentucky, to talk about the idea of what this would be like. And about 4 different factions got together and said, hey, all 4 of us can't do this because, we and everybody came open hands and said, we will lay this down. And out of that meeting, we're a steering committee that I ended up on. And 68 days later, we held an inaugural convention. We had 1,200 men come from 44 states. Our keynoter was Governor Mike Huckabee, and Dr. Michael Ferris spoke to us. And it was just this amazing God thing that came together 68 days later. And then 3 months after that, we launched with 500 troops on our first day. Now we've grown to over 1,000 troops all across the country, all 50 states, over 50,000 members now participating in Trail Life USA. So it's been quite a journey.
Wow, I think the neat thing, you hear people say, I actually was at St. Jude a few days ago with my husband. They were talking about the gentleman who founded that, and he was talking about receiving money. He'd rather have 1 million people give $1 than one person give 1 million, because that means 1 million people have bought into the ministry that they provide there. And I think it's the same with Trail Life USA. I mean, I think the grassroots effort and how many men were involved, that it wasn't just one person kind of forging and pioneering this path, but boy, everybody came together and caught this vision. And man, it sounds like it just lit like wildfire across the nation.
It really did. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary, and the board of directors wrote a resolution, because a lot of people say, well, who started this thing? And the resolution says it loud and clear: Jesus Christ is the founder of Trail Life USA, because you can't point to any one person. There are those of us there at the beginning who were very helpful in getting it going, but it was really just God doing this thing across the country. Now we sit here today with this wonderful, quickly growing organization that is being recognized by more and more families who are looking for like-minded families to bond with, and like-minded families that are raising the kind of sons that they would like for their son to be. We really say over and over again, we are Christ-centered and we are boy-focused. We're unapologetically Christian. We know that is the way to go. And we're also boy-focused because we think that boys and girls are different. And I don't think that's a too radical statement for this program. Someplace you'll get shouted down for that. But boys and girls are different. It's not a value statement. They're just different. And the fact that the boys have an organization that's aimed at them, that's built for them, that recognizes who it is that they are, is really ringing a clear clarion bell for moms and dads who know that their son is not their daughter. And so that's a big deal. And this great organization like American Heritage Girls, kind of our sister organization that ministers to girls, and we're great friends with them, different organization, but we love that the girls have their place to go too. So, like I said, it's been quite a journey seeing this come about and develop, and it's meeting the needs of a lot of families.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for being one of the founding members there, because I think a lot of parents right now feel overwhelmed, maybe even scared, sending their kids to public school. Maybe they don't have money or the opportunity to homeschool or send them to Christian classical schools, but they might be scared and feel like their kids are being indoctrinated. And which they are through the curriculum, and then some of the activist teachers there. And so I think this is such a neat organization because it provides not just truth from the Word of God, but just wonderful male mentorship for some of these boys who maybe they live in a single mom home, or, maybe they just don't have access to that. And I think that's really cool that you guys provide that for them.
Yeah, and that's true that now 1 in 4 boys lives in a home without a father figure, and that's just tragic. And these single moms are doing this amazing job of raising that family on their own. And so the girls in that household have a wonderful model of what a strong woman looks like. They can say, my mom is amazing. She can do everything. And then they go to school, and 76% of public school teachers are women. And so they said, there's a woman leading the class. She's amazing. And they go to Sunday school, and 80-something% of Sunday school teachers are women. So girls have these tremendous role models that they can look to, strong women, and boys are just lacking in that. And because of that, they don't have a picture of who it is that they can be. So in Trail Life USA, we're restoring the value again of good and godly men who are mentoring boys. And of course, all of our adult leaders sign a statement of faith, a statement of values that talks about things like what biblical marriage is, and they have personal references from that church in terms of their character and who it is that they are. They pass a criminal background check. They do child safety, youth protection training. These are good and godly men. We have a lot of men in our program who don't have a son in the program, but they're there because they want to pour into the next generation, and they have also discovered their brotherhood. And this is the crazy thing. We have so many men who say, I had a man I met not too long ago. He'd come back from 4 tours in Afghanistan. And he said, I just wanted to hide out in my apartment because I had a brotherhood in Afghanistan, but I've never had a brotherhood here. Well, that troop sought him out and they said, we'd like for you to be involved because you have so many outdoor cool skills that boys would love to be a part of. And so he reluctantly showed up, and he said, Mark, with tears in his eyes, he says, I have found my tribe. I found my brotherhood. And, so many men like that. So where are the godly men? And so men are finding a relationship. Single moms have cried out to God for a good Christian role model for their son, or their prayers are getting answered. Dads are wondering, how do I connect with my son? How do I figure out, I don't understand the video game world. I don't understand the social media world. I don't understand all that. Well, you can understand the outdoors with your son. And so dads are figuring out a new way to connect with their sons, and boys are getting these examples of male role models. And so everybody's getting ministered to by what it is that we're exposing them to in the ministry of Trail Life.
How wonderful. And with the power of social media and how it can just suck kids in, not only is it hard for the dads to connect and go play, whatever it is, Minecraft or whatever the popular game is, but it's really good for our kids to disconnect from social media and to be outside anyway. And I would think with this structured environment, it creates more intentionality and gets them outside in a more organized setting than just saying, hey, son, let's go out and throw the football together, which that's good too. But I would think that this would be really helpful, and it's a bit more intentional than that.
Yeah. Well, ministering the hearts of boys, they're always asking 3 questions. Who's in charge? Who's with me? And what is our mission? So at Trail Life USA, we answer this question. Who's in charge? Well, we have a hierarchical structure. They're in a patrol of 6 to 8 boys. They're electing their leader. That leader is in charge of whatever their mission is. And they have a clear mission. Maybe it's make sure you can find the water source on the map, or it's your turn, your patrol's turn to make breakfast, or help set up the campsite, or start the fire, something like that. And then they also answer this question, who's with me? And we do that by placing these patrols where they have this sense of this brotherhood. So it's real clear who's in charge, who's with them, and what is their mission. And that's how you win the hearts of boys. And we answer that question on a regular basis. And that gives them the sense, that group that they're identifying with, they take on the values of that group. And that's who it is they become. So whenever parents can find a good group of boys, I mean, sometimes parents will say, my son is really good at soccer, so I'm going to put him in the soccer league, because I want him to have self-esteem, You got to recognize he is going to take on the culture of that team. So if you're interested in the athletic skills, you may get those, but he's also going to come home with the culture of that team. So part of what we're providing for boys in Trail Life is this wonderful culture that's Christ-centered, surrounded by godly men, and that's what they're bringing home. And that's just powerful stuff, because who's really figured out this, who's in charge, who's with me, and what is our mission? It's gangs. I mean, they're really good at that. And that's why they're outgrowing the church. I was a youth pastor for 15 years. I did not have the level of commitment from my youth group that a gang will get from a boy, because they understood that thing so well. Who's in charge? Who's in charge? Very clear hierarchical structure. Who's with me? Colors, names, gang signs. They knew who they were a part of. What's our mission? They had very clear missions, typically not good ones. But when you can line those things up, you have that boy's heart. And a boy in a gang would not miss a meeting. Boy in my youth group, if there was a new Star Wars movie, he may not make it. But gangs discovered this, and we've learned that in Trail Life USA. When we can line those things up, we can create the kind of commitment, love for community, and fellowship, and just passion that really needs to be drawn out of boys.
That is so powerful when you're talking about the culture, because I think, we don't really think about that. Like you said, we think about, I want them to be a good athlete. I want them to stay active and things like that. We don't even think about the culture. But as we talked about before the show, I mean, we are in a culture war, which really is a spiritual war. But really at this point in time, I mean, we have to just assume, if it's not necessarily a godly per se club, or if you will, an activity, then it's probably going to be instilling in your boys the wrong value system, which really, as parents, the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart from it. And really that should be our primary mission as parents, is what is being poured into our sons' hearts. What type of culture, what type of values, where are they? Because kids are created that way. I mean, that's why the Bible is very clear about training them. I mean, they're sponges. They even back in the Greek and Roman times, they talk about the plasticity of the child. I mean, this is well known. And obviously that's why the assault and the attack on the hearts and minds of our children is coming from every direction, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whether it's movies and video games, school, even sadly, some churches. I mean, it's really the tentacles of this movement are just everywhere. And I think that you bring up a very strong and valid point, that we should be thinking about the culture of wherever we're placing our boys right now. I think that's incredibly important. Well,
the truth is that the activity itself is less important than the culture that you're placing your son in. And that's the thing that sticks with it, who it is that he identifies with, and who is it has come. So if you can find a community of boys for your son that has the type of culture you want to be a part of, and he's interested in that activity, you go all in. You buy him the stuff, you take him, you make sure he gets there, because you found that magic place. And I think that's what we offer in Trail Life.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about how Trail Life USA is different from the Boy Scouts. Obviously the Christian foundation and culture is very different, I would think. But what is the mission of Trail Life USA?
Yeah, we got generations of courageous young men to honor God, lead with integrity, serve others, and experience outdoor adventure. I had a mom come up to me at a homeschool convention in Nashville, and she said, "I've got a Boy Scout troop 5 minutes away, and I've got a Trail Life troop 30 minutes away." She put her hands on the table and she said, "You tell me why I should pick Trail Life." And I said, "Well, do you homeschool your son?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Does a school bus go by your house?" She said, "Yeah." "Wouldn't it be really easy just to stick him on the bus and you can just watch Oprah and eat bonbons all day?" She said, "Well, of course, I'm not going to do that to my son." I said, "Well, there you go." So,
Wow.
so we need to make those decisions. And so the key difference is, if they matter to you, it's a really big deal. If they don't matter to you, pick the one that's closer to you. But that Christ-centered aspect and the boy focus, those are huge. As far as handbooks, uniforms, robust awards program, we have all that stuff. In some ways, as short a time we've been around, we're better at a lot of that stuff than Boy Scouts. Some stuff they're better at because they've been around for a long time and they have a lot more troops than we do. But if it matters to you that the organization is Christ-centered, and it matters to you that it's boy-focused, then you don't really have a choice. I remember one of the first interviews, they now allow girls in Boy Scouts. And I remember one of the first interviews was with a scoutmaster, and they said, "How do you like having girls in your troop?" And he said, "We love having girls in our troop. They're so much smarter and better behaved." And I thought, he's right, because we study boys. Developmentally, girls are ahead of boys until they get up closer into high school, and then they even out. And boys, even in some ways, go beyond girls in terms of intellect. Usually it's too late for boys because they're already losing in school at that point, and they don't get back to that place. But I know he's right. He's right about that. Girls are better behaved and they're smarter. But my gosh, here's an organization with boys in its name, and they're shaming, boys. And so that boy has to sit there in that place and say, why can't you sit still like Susie, and hear the same thing he hears everywhere else? And so it's tragic. So we understand boys. We are committed to boys. That space that the Boy Scouts abandoned, we have filled completely. And we trust American Heritage girls with the girls who are wonderful. We love girls. This isn't a slight on girls. This is saying boys and girls need something that's specific for them. So those two things, the Christ Center aspect, we're not just an outdoor organization that's having a Christian experience. We are at our core a Christian ministry that uses the outdoors to grow boys into godly men. If there was a better way of doing that, I would be doing that. But we have discovered that through the wonder of the outdoors in this male-centric environment with men leading boys, that we're having tremendous success. Like I said, I was a youth pastor for 15 years. I could not have guaranteed that mom that I would turn this boy into a godly man. Trail of USA, we have a guarantee. Those boys will become godly men. It's just this wonderful place to do this. If there was a better way of doing it, I would be doing that.
I like that.
Those are the major difference. Christ-centered, boy-focused.
And I think the neat thing is that you're really training them to fulfill the call and the purpose that God has placed on their lives. I mean, Adam, it wasn't good for man to be alone, and he brought a helpmate, Eve, and Eve had different strengths, and she helped, and it was a complete package because they both had different strengths. And that's why this is just an assault, not just on biology and reality, but on God. And I know we talked about that, the spiritual battle that we're in right now. But why does Trail Life refuse to abandon their traditional boy-centered roots, unlike the Boy Scouts? Is it because that you're creating godly young men and that this works, whereas the Boy Scouts are creating, I don't know what, like certainly not godly young men?
Yeah, no, that's part of the secret, is it takes godly men to raise godly men. So we have a male-centric environment. We have women involved at all kinds of levels of the program. And up to, I think, like 5th grade, women can actually be have troop contact, meaning that they're around the boys in the troop. But after 5th grade, it's all men who are in contact with the boys. Now, the women are serving on committees and they're helping out, and they're making decisions, and they're part of the organization. But in that critical place of the troop contact, who the boys see leading, it's men, because boys have got to see men leading. There's so many places that we go to, as the daughter of a pastor, it's not a place for men. It's all, the women are engaged. There's more women attending there. There's a lot of places now that appeal to women. There's very few places that are male-centric. And so boys have to discover that what they hear from the culture is that masculinity is toxic. There's something wrong with me. It's like boyhood is some kind of social disease that needs to be eradicated or something. They get this sense from the culture that there's something wrong with them. Why aren't you like your sister? And so they need an environment where they can go and be with other boys. My wife used to say when I would come home from meetings or campouts with my sons, she says, when you bring the boys home, she says, they're smellier, because they've been out camping for 3 days and they're kind of proud sometimes of how smelly they got. She says, but they're also taller. And I thought, wow, honey, that's really something. And that experience of being in the company of men for a weekend, reminding them who it is that they are and what their strengths are, rather than being shamed for not being able to sit still, be quiet, and pay attention. They are in the company of men and boys and find their strength. They just get taller. So that's why I love that male-centric environment. It's producing just these wonderful young men.
That's so great. I love that. They're taller. That's so good. Well, and so what do you attribute the rapid growth to with Trail Life USA? Is it because you have provided not just an outdoor activity, but you're realizing that families really are longing for this male-centric and focused environment, in addition to providing a godly environment?
Yeah. And the male-centric part is certainly a huge piece of it. But parents are looking for a community that shares their values. And it's wonderful to have a church community, but that's Sunday morning somewhat restricted. But if you're sending your boy out for a weekend with a group of men that share the values that your husband shares and that your family shares, you're living with them in the outdoors for a weekend, or you're spending an evening working on some sort of task or some sort of skill. That's different than just passing in church and saying, "Good morning, how you doing? I'm good, buddy. How are you?" You're seeing these guys in the outdoors. And beautiful thing is, a lot of times the boys will bed down and the dads will sit around the fire, and they'll talk about things you won't find them talking about as they pass on Sunday morning. They're saying, "Hey, I saw the way that you talked with your son today. How did you build a relationship like that? I'd like to be able to have that." Or they're saying, "I'm struggling with something at work or my marriage and things." Guys will connect around a campfire, and on Sunday morning, they're just not doing that. So there's this beautiful place for men to connect, and for single moms to put their son to be raised up, and a place for boys to be boys and be in the company of men. And I think that's, we talk about character, leadership, and adventure. The boys come for the adventure, but the parents are placing them there because of the character and the leadership. You can't build character without a Christ-centered biblical focus. What is it? 58% of Americans no longer believe that the Bible and God are the foundation for morality. So where are you going to place your son where he can see that, oh gosh, God, how do you even begin to talk about good and bad if you don't have a foundation of God, an absolute truth at the foundation? You can't talk about good and bad in our culture today, because it's your good, it's your bad. You think it's good, I think it's good. You think it's bad, I think it's good. But in Trail Life USA, because we're biblically founded and Christ-centered, we can say things about character and what's in things like heroism and courage and sacrifice, and we can talk about those things because we have biblical foundations for those principles.
And really, you're doing such a great job at elevating the noise of truth and God's word. And, with postmodernism and relativism and all these things, it's like it's your feelings that dictate, today I feel like a girl, today I feel like a boy. I mean, there's no anchor or mooring of truth, and that is found in God's word. And I just love that the nation has responded so strongly to this organization, so that just not just validating it, but actually showing the need for these moorings and for these anchors of truth, and making it more noisy so that kids have a place to go. Because outside of this, I think back to how I've read how boys and men, how they connect and how they bond is doing activities beside each other, where women are more face to face and talking. Men bond, I've read, doing activities side by side. And this is so perfect for dads and sons, or just mentors and these young men, and learning how to connect and pointing them to our Father in heaven as our basis of truth through which they can and see the world through that lens.
Yeah. I'm old enough to remember in the 80s and 90s this emphasis on accountability, especially when men that are speaking to men. You guys need to be accountable. Go to breakfast every week with another man and have a cup of coffee. You sit across the table from the guy drinking a cup of coffee. It's like, shoot me now. I mean, I don't know. And then you're looking around the restaurant and the women are just chattering away. Guys just don't do that. They really do connect side by side, turning a wrench, hiking a trail, putting a fire together, teaching some boys how to safely use firearms, or archery or whitewater rafting, and doing those things side by side is where they bond and where they make those eternal kind of connections. I mean, I heard the story the other day. Our wife had said, my husband went out, he played golf with somebody for 6 hours. And the guy I know, he's just been divorced and been through a rough time. So he came home and I was like, "Hey, how's your friend Bob doing?" He said, "Great. He shot a 74. And he said, "But how's he doing?" "I don't know." It's like, you just spent 6 hours with him. How do you know? "I don't know, but we had a great time. He's one of my best friends." We just connect differently, and we need those times of bonding together in those kind of situations, and we feel bonded, we feel closer. It's just not in conventional, or it's not in a female type way.
Right.
But over time, those bonds do begin to get deeper and develop. It takes us a little while longer to get vulnerable and to trust. But it's in those settings that we begin to open up and to get more vulnerable and begin to ask those questions, or begin to say, "Hey, my marriage is struggling. Anybody got any ideas?" It takes a while for us to build those kind of connections where we can let our guard down.
That's good. Well, how can people find out more information about Trail Life USA?
Well, our website is traillifeusa.com, 2 L's in the middle, traillifeusa.com. And if you go to, I think it's Get Connected, it's a tab, and you can find a troop, which will show you a map of the United States. You put in your zip code and it'll show you all the troops that are nearby and how far they are. And you can click on that and you can communicate with that troop. Hey, I'm interested in what time you meet, or can we come? You can begin to communicate with that local troop that way. And if you don't have a troop in your area, there's a starter troop tab in the same way. It takes 5 adults. We consider ourselves to be an outreach at a local church. We're not just meeting in their basement. We are a ministry of that church, like your youth ministry or your children's church, whatever. It is a ministry of that church. We believe the church is plan A for God. And so we're coming along the side and helping to build the local church. So 5 adults and a pastor that understands the value and pouring into the next generation. That's what it takes to start a troop. And our average troop is about 50 boys. And growing every day in terms of that average. A lot of people, sometimes they'll start a troop and they say, I think we'll have 15 or 20 boys. And the first night they'll have 40 because they just come out of the woodwork because people are like, I want this for my son. So that's what I find out right now. There's a couple free downloads, the book Raising Godly Boys, which talks about the proven process that we use in Trail Life USA that can be used anywhere. And then also book Let Boys Be Boys. And here I talk to leaders of boys about the differences between boys and girls and about how you can use those strategies and leading groups of boys. And those are for free right now at our website.
Wow. We need to all get that. traillifeusa.com. Is it .com?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are great. And then you also wrote another book, Why Are We Sitting Here Until We Die? What was that about?
Yeah, I started that book before Trail Life, and then I was able to finish it during Trail Life, and I was able to add the Trail Life story to it. That comes out of 2 Kings chapter 7, that lepers are outside the city that's under siege, and they look at the attacking army, and they look back at the city and the people starving on the side, and here they are, lepers, and they ask the question, why are we sitting here until we die? And at that moment, they said, let's just give ourselves over to the enemy. But at the moment that they ask that question and arise, God moves over the enemy camp. The enemy scatters, and these lepers come upon all the food and the clothing and the tents and the livestock and everything, and then take that back to the city and save the city. So the idea is sometimes we just sit there betwixt these things. And, we don't want to go back to the dead thing. That's scary out there. So we just sit here. But the message of the lepers, why are we sitting here till we die? God moves when we ask that question and delivers the treasure that we can then use to deliver the city. So it talks about doing bold things for God, stepping out, being courageous enough to ask those kind of questions like Moses asked and Gideon asked and David asked, made reference to earlier. Those are all guys who ask questions, or God asked questions of them. And those questions can inspire us to stand and do something, and it can also cause God to move in our favor.
Yeah, I love that, because like we were talking about before the show, starting a podcast, or you being the CEO, this was not in our wheelhouse. It wasn't in our agenda. This is not a life goal of ours, but I think it was so fascinating in that the story that you were just referencing in the Bible, like God could have brought food for them. God could have dropped manna out of the sky. But boy, there's something about our heart and our relationship with him and our yes to him, saying yes. And I love that, like, God wants us to be involved. He wants to work with us, not for us, but with us, and be in partnership with us. And I think that is what's so beautiful about that story, about what you're doing with Trail Life USA is God wants partnership with us, but he also wants us to have partnership with each other and like-minded believers to fulfill his call on all of our lives.
Absolutely. It's co-laborers with Christ. God rarely does something that he doesn't do it through a man. He could have redeemed us just by snapping his fingers, but he said, I'm going to send a man. And so those decisions that he makes, he's always sending someone, and it's those who will rise up and say, why am I sitting here? Why am I sitting here? That he responds to, and that he empowers and clears the way.
That's great. And where can they find that book?
That's on Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we need to go and get that, because that sounds like an amazing book.
Oh, I think it's also in the Trail Life USA store.
Oh, it is. Okay, perfect. And that is called Why Are We Sitting Here Until We Died? So let's grab that today. Thank you, Mark, so much for joining me today. You can find Trail Life USA on Facebook and Twitter and on Instagram. And it's at Trail Life USA for Facebook and Twitter. And it's at Trail Life for Instagram. And those links will be noted also in the content description as well. And we would love to get connected with you. Just go to momsonamission.net, fill out your information, and we can get connected that way. Also, as always, if you have questions or comments, email us at moms@momsonamission.net. That's moms@momsonamission.net. And please follow us on your favorite platform. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. We loved learning all about Trail Life USA.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And thanks for listening.
Moms on a Mission is excited to partner with our friends at MyPillow. According to sleep experts and sleephealth.org, over 50 million Americans struggle to get a good night's rest. That's where MyPillow comes in. They make the best pillows, sheets, mattresses, and mattress toppers. Several years ago, I was having trouble falling and staying asleep due to neck and shoulder pain. Luckily, I heard an ad about MyPillow and decided to give it a try. After 3 or 4 days, I really began to feel a difference. I was sleeping better and my neck and shoulders felt so much better. MyPillow really does help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Moms on a Mission wants you to get a great night's rest too. Go to mypillow.com right now and use the promo code MISSION for up to 66% off your purchase. MyPillow products are made in America and have a 60-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty. Remember, go to mypillow.com, put in the special code MISSION for your special Moms on a Mission discount. Thank you and God bless.
Hey guys, it's Moms on a Mission here. Are you worried about your financial stability and protecting the money for which you work so hard? The problem is stock market volatility and inflation. You may be wondering what you can do to preserve your family's wealth. We at Moms on a Mission encourage you to reach out to our friend Andrew Sorcini with Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Andrew is the expert in educating you to help you find the right balance of gold and silver for your family portfolio. He made it so easy for me to add precious metals to my financial investments. I simply mailed a check to Beverly Hills Precious Metals and my silver showed up on my doorstep a few days later. It was so easy. Go to bh-pm.com to save a little money and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. That's bh-pm.com. Don't wait. Protect your wealth today by going to bh-pm.com and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you.